Yo, what's up? We are attempting to go live right here in the hotel room because it's the only place that doesn't have music blaring in the lobby.
Very cozy corner of it.
Yes, the very cozy corner.
Trying to stay close to Chris here.
All right, cool. So what we're going to do today is we're going to really talk about what we're doing here in Dallas. And we're going to talk about a meeting that we just got through talking with a brand, which is going to air as a podcast episode. It was a hot seat session that we did. And we're going to really discuss the brand building aspect of it. We're also going to talk, Chris, right, about some pay-per-click stuff, pretty major update. And as we're doing that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them. Dom is not going to be with us today. We figured out that the laptop was not connected to our Wi-Fi for some reason, and we only can come to you from the phone, so that's what we're doing here today. So, pretty excited to be here. We're all in the same room. We've got Joel Bauer, we've got Chris Shaffer, and me here today.
This is Scott Voelker.
Oh yeah, if you didn't know.
Just in case.
We also had a great TAS meetup last night, which was pretty darn awesome. I actually met with Nathan Barry today really quickly, talked to the ConvertKit creator. So you guys know that we use ConvertKit in our brands, and we recommend it, and I was able to talk to him quite a bit, and we've got some cool things planned with him, so that's on the list building side. A lot of cool things happening.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of stuff happening.
I mean, Chris's voice is still here. It was actually disappearing for a little while.
It's Barry Manilow today.
Barry Manilow.
Yeah. So low.
Cool. So we got a bunch of people jumping on. If you guys can do me a favor and share this, like it, give us a little emoji love or
thumbs up, heart, Mr. Yuck, any of those kinds of happy things.
Yeah, as I open up my bottle of water.
Very fancy.
This is a fancy.
Today's episode of TAS
is powered by
Powered by Boss. Not sponsored in any way, and we don't have fat water today to talk about, so we're just kind of hanging out here. Cool. I think, Scott, before we dive into some of the brand building stuff, and I do want to talk about the event last night, because for everybody that was here, it was fantastic. I think, and you guys know, any place that we go, we try to put one together where it's just an unofficial meetup. And we had 30, 35 people last night, which was great. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that, but one of the big news items of the week, if you guys are seeing PPC impressions going down, it's because, well, there's multiple reasons, right? But the first one I would take a look at, and the first thing that I would think of is, if nothing else has changed, Amazon is actually monkeying with the number of ad placements. And in a lot of people's layouts, and if you guys didn't know, there's different layouts depending on what browser you're using, and they test a lot of different stuff, but they're removing the sponsored products down the side in a lot of those layouts. Now, it is supposedly at this point still just a test, but it's something that I've seen across a couple accounts. I know Jeff Cohen had some issues with it. He reached out and let us know that they wrote a whole blog post over at Seller Labs about it. And so it's something, if you just don't panic, don't go raising your bids like crazy if you see that your impressions have. One, you shouldn't be looking at your PPC that much anyway. But two, if it's your time to look at it and you're like, well, normally I get this many and I'm down 10,000, that might be one of the reasons. So take a look at that. Take a look at your market, run a search, and see if you're still getting those sidebar ads. They're just limiting the number of placements, which means you're going to have to be more relevant, you're going to have to bid better, and you're going to have to make your ads make more sense down the road if this ends up being something that they keep. So not something to panic about, but if you see it, it is a change, and it's definitely different in terms of the layout and what it looks like.
Cool. Yeah, so anybody have any questions on that or pay-per-click, drop them in the comments. We'll do our best to pull it up on the other phone that we're picing this in through.
This is how fancy we are at TAS.
Two phones.
Yeah, two phones. We are fancy. Yeah, and we have the setup right here is amazing that we have here with
I like the lamp.
Yeah, the lamp is really good behind Chris. All right, so cool. Like I said, we had a great meetup. Joel, I want to officially kind of bring you into this conversation, and some people tuning in might not really, have met you before or whatever. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing here?
What I'm doing? That is a great question.
Did we just find you on the street and pull you into the room?
I was out here in Dallas just wandering, and this guy Scott came up and grabbed me. I do a lot in the behind the scenes of TAS, and spend a lot of my time really thinking how to best serve you guys and what's really coming down the line to help the brand grow and see more people be successful. So we know that what we're teaching works. We've seen it happen over and over again with people out there, but we really want everyone to have that chance. And so we're going to keep building and trying to figure out what are those little hooks, what are those things that people need to hear and know so they can do it. Because it's one thing to go, man, Scott's great, and I hear the podcast, but it's way different when you start making money online. When you start selling on Amazon, realize, hey, man, I have choice here. I don't just have to go to that job, or I get to design the life I want. And that's what we want for everybody out there listening. If that's a dream of yours, come and get it.
Yeah, and I kind of want to bring that up. I mean, Joel is really, really good at digging in to the reasoning is why we want to actually, not us necessarily, but why people are either stuck or what those sticking points are. Funny, last night we were at TAS meetup, and I met with Kevin. If you're watching, and he was here a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And he came up and said, Scott, I was here, a year and a half ago, and we had a conversation, and I've been listening to your podcast for a year and a half, and I just launched my product today.
It went live yesterday.
It went live yesterday. Yeah. And so I high-fived him, and I go, all right, now that we high-fived, because I'm proud of you, I want to know what took you so long.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what took you so long? And you know what he said to me? I'm not quite sure. And I said, all right, well, let's go back in time. Have you done anything else in the past? Well, yeah, I've done a lot of different things, right? I've done real estate, I've done MLM stuff, I've done all that stuff. And yeah, I've done some stuff, and I've been successful with some of that stuff. I go, well, let's go back to, like, maybe when you first got started doing something. Yeah. And he was like, well, it was kind of real estate back in the 90s. And then in 96, I had a deal go really bad. Yeah. And he started to kind of like recognize this now. It was almost like we were doing like a therapy session.
Yeah, it shook him up. You could see it.
Oh yeah, he was like,
man, I just thinking about it again was like, that's horrible. And everybody has those stories. Everybody has that connection piece.
Yeah, and I think for anyone that's thinking to themselves like, I've listened for so long, or I've been tuning in, or I've been wanting to do this, or I've been struggling. You got to kind of ask yourself that question, like, what is it that's holding you back? There's probably something. The reason why you haven't launched yet, or the reason that you've launched and then you've stalled, there's a reason why you're not doing it.
And Scott did a great job. I mean, he just did a great job of like digging in. He's like, okay, how does that connect? What happened there? And he's like, well, I'm afraid of basically failing like that again. And that was the whole reason. And so that connecting that, he's like, wait, this is completely different. I know what happened in real estate. I know how it went wrong. Oh man, why did I take so long? I mean, it was a really cool like moment just to see that person like, man, a year ago he could have been already doing this because he connected something that didn't even make sense. But we're so worried about looking bad or failing and whatever that means. I mean, he didn't fail. The story he told me is a guy that basically stepped into real estate, made some serious money, and had one deal happen a little bit differently than he expected.
Yeah.
Is really what happened.
Yeah.
But he had amazing skills from it, amazing abilities, and honestly, I think he's going to crush it in this space because he has that experience.
Yeah, and now he's got the momentum, he's got the movement, going. And we interviewed a few people last night too, and kind of wanted to dig into their stories. One thing I want to highlight right here, and I think this is an interesting topic, for a lot of people, they don't realize they're building a skill set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we actually interviewed two people last night at the TAS meetup because we just wanted to hear their story. And two people basically got their start by consulting brick and mortar businesses that have not launched their own product. So imagine yourself for a second. You've been listening. You know how to do everything, but you're still a little afraid to pull the trigger. You see a brick and mortar store that's selling successful in their retail. They're maybe launching their product online, but they're not really launching it properly. They're just throwing it up there, one image, not optimizing, and thinking that that's all you have to do. They came in and said, let me do it for you, and if it works, you can pay me.
Yeah, then pay me.
And they did it, and they landed. One lady has multiple clients. One lady got signed by a company that employs her now full-time to run their e-commerce side. The other lady has built a e-commerce site. They're both women, too, by the way.
Yeah.
So any ladies out there thinking to themselves, like, I don't think I can do this, you can do this. Like, it's not like a man-dominated space. And we also talked about that, too. A lot of, women, they think to themselves they can't do it because, like you see maybe, a majority of it is men. That's
a lot
just
of coachings and trainers,
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
there was actually 3 people there last night then because Aaron, they have guys we were just talking
Oh,
to
yeah.
are doing some consulting. It
Okay.
wasn't necessarily that they got their start, but they're doing the same thing to
Okay.
build up additional revenue and to help shore up the other things that they're doing to give them an additional income stream. And it's because they have a skill set, and it's with it's a fairly major brand that they're working with.
Yeah.
Right, and they have their own stuff, but they're also doing it with a fairly major brand, and that's helping them bankroll the other stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
Because they have the skills, and the brand didn't.
Exactly. Okay, so that's just something, a little tidbit I wanted to throw out there. I'm probably going to have those interviews probably on the podcast, and we'll highlight those and we'll talk more about them. But this is just stuff that's fresh to mind.
Well, what's super cool about that is that some people come in and they get the training, they go, man, I don't know if I can risk the money to go into private label yet. But they went in and said, oh, I do feel like I know this. I at least know it better than that store owner.
Yeah.
And so they got in there. Well, after 2 or 3 of those, even if you couldn't really drive it to where I have to have you, by the third one, you were an expert. You've seen multiple brands. You've seen the insides and outs. You were just building that skill along the way. By the third one, honestly, if you didn't have the chops to begin with, you will. And it's being able to get out there and do it and see it. I mean, so it's why Scott pushes take action, because regardless, you learn something. Either don't do that or do that. You're gonna learn something.
Here's what works. Here's what doesn't. Alberto says information overload was my issue.
Yeah.
And we've met Alberto. I think we met him at the ClickFunnels event, right?
Yeah.
He's in PLC. He's been in TAS, and he's been active for a while. And it's funny because I had that conversation a couple times last night as well. The conversation you guys were talking about. And it's actually twice as funny because we said, who do we think the avatar of the average TAS listener is? And we were having that conversation at lunch. Yeah. And it was, in a lot of cases, it's people who have tried other things and maybe had some successes and had some failures. And almost everybody I talked to last night had that exact story.
Yeah,
I tried 3 MLMs.
Yeah.
I was in real estate. I was doing that.
Selling candles.
Yeah. And this is the thing that made it work. And this is one of the reasons that we like the Amazon thing so much, because it's easy in the grand scheme of things, it's repeatable, and it's consistent for people. And it's one of the few ways that we've seen a lot of people get success on a consistent basis. And it's something that just about anybody can do as long as they put in the time and the effort. But the other thing that holds people up is the information overload, and that's the other conversation I had with a lot of people last night. Hey, I watched your list building workshop. I watched all 5 hours worth of PPC. I watched all 25 videos from the $1 Million Case Study. And I'm stuck in product research. And Scott, I feel like every time you and I are in the same room, we have this conversation about just-in-time learning, but it's something that I think is a critical skill for people, and it's be where you are and focus on where you are. Learn the thing that you're worried about. Don't watch the stuff on sourcing. Don't watch the stuff on PPC. Don't watch the stuff on email lists. Don't watch the stuff on building your listing if you haven't picked a product.
Right.
Focus down on those things. There's hundreds of hours worth of content on product selection, and you can get information overload just on that thing without worrying about the other stuff and getting overwhelmed by it. So focus on where you are, and when you do that, a couple things happen. You pull out a lot more golden nuggets, and you can listen to the same podcast episode 2 or 3 times and hear different things that come out. And that's one of the reasons, like if we talk about product research, we might talk about it slightly differently, and then you get it. And so when you focus just on that one thing, even if you hear the same concept presented 2 or 3 different times, it gets tweaked slightly each time, or the story that's associated with it is a little bit different, and
or
maybe
you're ready for it.
Right, or you're ready for it. And when you focus on exactly where you are and not on all of the other stuff, it breaks that information overload down into much more actionable chunks. And even though there can still be an overwhelming amount of information there, at least you can take action on one of those chunks. If you've been on a workshop with us, you've heard my rant about knowledge is not power. All of our guidance counselors lie to us with the signs in their office. Having knowledge is not power. The application of that knowledge is the actual power. And the taking action is where that really comes in. And if you just blast yourself in the face with everything, you're never going to take action because it's literally impossible. It's paralyzing.
It's paralyzing.
Yeah, the number of people worrying about building their list and their audience that don't even have a product. Like they don't know who their audience is going to be. How can they work on that? And they get stuck there because they think that's the latest thing, and they got to go get that. And it really does. It messes with them. On the other side, as Chris pointed out, is there's so many people come in and say, "I've already heard this." If you're not doing it, you might not have heard it.
You heard it, but you didn't listen.
And catching what you need. So the first pass through, sometimes people come into new industries, and really just listening through a presentation is just enough to give you reference. That's it. It's just to say, oh, okay, that's not completely scary. I know a little bit about it now. And now you can go and say, hey, what do I actually need to learn and take the next step? And you're ready for it. So go out and get the training. It doesn't matter if you've heard it before. Get what you need right now and go do it.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about the brand building stuff that we just kind of went through. I think that's important. A lot of people say, like, what do you think the future of Amazon is? Right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people say, like, I want to build my business and I want to do it on Amazon. We're not necessarily saying that. What we're saying is you're building a brand, or you're building a business that you launch on Amazon, or you take your existing business that's brick and mortar and launch it on Amazon because the traffic's there. All of the components are there.
Amazing revenue stream. Like
exactly.
Existing businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we did is we actually had Aaron and his wife. We had them. They came to the meetup, and we actually were communicating with them a little bit through email. And he wanted us to take a look at their stuff and give just some advice and stuff. So right away, I loved their products. I loved their brand, but they weren't even really building the brand yet.
No.
Right? But they have a lot of components that I think are amazing, and I think they can do a lot with it.
Right.
What I want to do is kind of recap that a little bit, because we are going to have that episode air. And we are going to be kind of keeping in touch with them and kind of guiding them and kind of seeing what happens. But I think it's interesting, for people to kind of listen at what we feel are the components to a brand, and then what are the first steps in starting. Kind of like the content strategy, and where do I post, and how much do I post, and what if I'm not the face, who do I find, and like all that stuff. I kind of want to cover that stuff. But before we do that, I wanted to say, if you guys are just tuning in, go ahead and like this, share it, and give us a little bit of Facebook love. And Mariana just joined us. Mariana was there last night.
She was.
Hope everything is well with you, Mariana. Yes, thank you so much for attending. I just want to throw that out there. If you guys think this is valuable, go ahead and share it, like it. And we are going to be talking about, in this next segment, is brand building. And if you guys are interested in brand building, go ahead and drop it in there. If you have any questions on brand building, do that for us as well. Yeah. Where do you want to start with this? Because we could spend an hour. We're not going to.
We just spent 2 hours.
Let's just do the components. Why don't you just start us off, Chris, and just say, what are the components of someone who's ready to take a product and turn it into a brand, not just a product alone?
Well, I'm curious what you're calling the components, because I think the first thing you obviously need is a product, right? You need a product or a set of products. And in the case of Aaron and his company, they have a whole bunch of different things that they have as products, and they actually have a whole bunch of different markets, right? It's not necessarily a cohesive brand in the way that we think of it, meaning it fits one market. Yeah. It's a cohesive brand in the sense that it has similar ingredients. And people who would like one thing would still like a lot of the other products, but they're not necessarily marketed in a way. It's not Nike shoes.
Yeah, and we're going to actually reveal that. We won't do it here, but we're going to reveal it when we do we already did the hot seat. It's recorded. We're going to air that, and he's totally cool with us sharing, because it's really hard to actually rip off his product. So we are going to reveal that, not here today, but on an upcoming podcast. But I just kind of wanted to kind of throw that out there, because a lot of people will think to themselves, well, I have a great product, but like, how do I create a brand?
Yeah.
And I think what I want to work around or work with is really, like, for them, they are the face of the brand, him and his wife.
Yeah.
The very first thing that I suggested, and I think we all agree on, is they need to convey their story. Why did they create this product? Okay, number one. So they created a product, and it's a reusable product. So for them, they actually created it out of their own need. Okay, and he was, he was using this product in his brand, or in his previous profession, and found that he wanted a better product.
Yeah. So
he ended up creating this product. So he scratched his own itch. So now he is kind of like the person that's the expert in that. Sorry if that just paused. We had a phone call coming in. My first thing was, he's got a great story. Their look is like spot on. Like they are like, and you guys, I'll show you guys pictures again during the podcast.
They're a perfect fit for that market.
Perfect fit. Great people, willing to learn. But the first thing for me was, like, they need to tell that story. Okay, and so that means that they're going to have to shoot a video, put it up on YouTube, talking about why they did this and why they created it. That's number one. Is that going to drive a bunch of sales? No, that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is we're trying to create the brand, and then we're trying to create the story behind the brand, because a lot of people are tied to a story, not necessarily the product.
Okay. I want to just to give some frame. So you need a product, you need a face of it, and you need to be, if it's not you, you need to be able to find someone, and that can be difficult. And we'll probably have more stuff talking on that, because you can go. We have a long conversation just about that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a good podcast episode coming up soon if we have it.
Well, I think just to kind of talk about that, if you don't have someone that's the face of the brand, go find someone in your space that is maybe talking about that topic, but is not it's a perfect partnership to be able to kind of find an influencer. Maybe not even a major influencer, someone that's got like 10,000 people, but they're talking about this because they love it, right? So if someone's a mechanic and they love working on cars on Sunday, they don't know about how to launch a product on Amazon, but they love working on their motor on the Sunday, right? So that would be a perfect person to partner with. That could be the face of the brand.
So here's a question. I mean, for me, it's you have to have a product. You have to have I wouldn't call it necessarily a face of the brand. You have to have a brand personality, a persona.
A persona,
right?
Right.
And you have to have a platform, right? Amazon is a really easy platform for us. Again, we never want to have just one, right? As we start to build it, we can get Amazon. Amazon is the easiest one to become stable on. When we start to actually build out the brand, though, we want to look outside of Amazon. For me, in a lot of cases, you are going to have a face of the brand, but the people that come to mind when you say you need to have a face of the brand is somebody like the Armstrongs. You don't necessarily need to have a face on that brand because they're working with influencers.
Right.
They're then bringing those people back. They still need to have that persona. They still need to have that communication and that platform, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
If you can have a face of the brand, it's probably easier because then you naturally have the connection versus making that a pass off. It's not right or wrong, I don't think, to not have a face to the brand. But if you can do it, it makes a lot of things easier.
It's that natural
because
thing.
you come across as authentic.
Well, people like to buy from another person. Right. They ideally want to know that there's someone behind you they can trust, and you see that with major companies all the time. They keep trying to shove celebrities at us, saying, "Hey, you trust them, right? Trust us." And in this one,
that's why influencer marketing works.
If you really are the person behind it, you're the one that did all the research, and you're excited about the product, you're a perfect fit. Sometimes you're not, though. Say that you got into selling automotive parts and you really have no interest in it. You just thought it was a good market. Then you may not want to be the face because it's not your passion. And when people go, "Hey, what do you think about this?" You're like, "Oh, I don't know." Then you want to definitely find someone else that has that experience, because it needs to be a little bit of both. They need to be able to trust and feel like they're connecting to a real person, while at the same time that person has the expertise to advise them and help them. And so that's a good balance between. And then it has to be something you trust. If you wouldn't trust this person, don't try to feed it to your audience.
Right.
There's a lot in there to think about, but if you get it right, there's so many things it just opens up what you can do with your brand, and how easy it is to launch products, to sell products when you have new ones, to get new concept ideas, to find out what's really going on. Because if you have an audience and a community that trust you, and you go, "Hey, please just tell me what's really going on," they'll tell you, and then now you can just fix it. Other people, it's not always the same on Amazon. Usually they're just too busy being pissed. They give you any constructive criticism, like 1 star, I can't believe it fell apart. It's like, it was one defective product.
You hit it with a truck. I don't understand. You ran it over with your car.
Yeah. Did you notice that something was wrong with the box? Was smashed when you got it? That wasn't me. I didn't design the product that way.
Melissa's in the house. Melissa and probably Keith.
How's it going?
What's going on, guys?
Safe. And so I think that's the thing. You don't necessarily have to be the visual face, but you do have to have a brand persona, because there has to be something for people to connect to.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do Facebook Lives, if you don't want to do that kind of stuff, you don't have to. But it does make a lot of things easier. And I think if you have that, it makes it even easier than just being the persona.
Yeah, so what you mean is, like, if they're doing video work, you kind of need a person's face. But if the persona is like, it would show up in your email. This is how I talk to you every time.
And that's something you and I spend a lot of time talking about.
Picture me. Yeah, it's just, I have a real personality. Go, "Hey, I can't wait to see you use this product." Whereas small company I just love the feedback, come in to tell us, and they go, "Oh, it's a real person." Right. That's what he means by persona. And if that's consistent through all of
the voice,
your written,
like
you can still do a similar thing. Yes, it helps when people can see a face, but it's not mandatory. And sometimes your brand or the business you're trying to build, you don't want to be that. And so, but you can still get that benefit of connecting and being a real person and being natural with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what I want to say, though, is like, what we advise them, it doesn't mean that that's going to work for your brand or the brand you're trying to build. Before I say this, though, like, in the comments, let us know if you have a product that you think that you could build a brand around. I'm curious on that. Just drop it in the comments, say yes or no, or if you want. Just want to kind of get a little bit of of feedback here, because some people don't think that their product is worthy of a brand.
Yeah.
And that may be so. You know what I mean? But
I guess the better question would be, let us know if you have a product you think you can't build a brand around.
Yeah.
And then give us an example.
Yeah. Ali says I am building a brand. Cool.
Nice.
Okay, so here's what I said. So okay, number one, and again, I think people need to understand too is like when we talk about building an email list, we're not talking about building an email list only to sell product.
No.
And so and it was kind of like a light bulb went on for those guys is when I said we want to create these places where that content's going to reside. So we have Facebook Lives. Facebook Live is a great platform to be able to test content.
Yeah.
And if that content goes well, you can boost that content and drive traffic to it. Yeah. So what we kind of said was like, come up with 10 things that your market needs to know, or maybe one thing you need to know about this, or one weird trick to catch more bass. Yeah. Like whatever it is, right? Do those for every day for the next 10 days. And just do Facebook Lives. Yeah, could be 5 minutes, could be 10 minutes, okay? And then you're gonna get instant feedback from that, okay? Now the second part of that is once you start to see what might work and what might not work, you take the stuff that worked and you can create YouTube video now for that.
Yeah.
And do the same type of content and then put that on YouTube. So now we're building out this content on just 2 platforms. And then from there, once we build our email list, we can go ahead now and we can drive traffic back to our Facebook Live and say, hey guys, just showed this weird bass trick on on the Facebook page, go check it out. And now all we're doing there is trying to get those people to go see it, share it, like it, and spread the word.
Yeah, another nice benefit to Live is people don't expect a high production value. You could be in a hotel room,
look at us
in the corner with 3 guys,
3 dudes in a hotel room
with one fancy bottle of water,
at least one fancy bottle of water. Requirement, maybe a stand
with a
to
big
hold
tall lamp behind Chris.
A stand to hold your phone.
Apparently, I have to be in the room for you to shoot a Facebook Live video in general. For anybody on the planet to shoot a Facebook Live, I have to be there.
But that makes it really the barrier to entry is very, very low. Most people have a smartphone that can do this right now. It's super easy to set up. So I wanted to point that out because that is something like, but then I have to have the lighting and I have to get the camera and I have to how do I do that? Don't worry about that.
That's something. That's something. It's not just Facebook Live. It's an excuse, and I'm going to call it an excuse because that's what it is. That we hear for any form of marketing.
Yeah.
I can't do it because I don't know what content to share.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can't do it because I don't have a really nice Sony camera and a ring light. I can't do it because I don't have, I can't do audio content because I don't have a Sennheiser podcasting mic. I don't have this certain thing. And the thing that's really cool is if you do anything,
it's better than nothing.
Something will work, right? And I said it this morning, done is better than good. Mm-hmm. Obviously, good is better than none, right? But like anything that you can put out there is going to resonate with somebody, and you can refine it over time. You can get better lighting. You can get better equipment as you get better at it. Yeah. And it was something that he said to us today. He said, I'm just not comfortable on video. Mm-hmm. He said, well, you don't have to publish the first few if you don't want to.
Yeah,
but if you do it, you're going to get comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Like, and I shared the story, like, I know you the first time you jumped behind a podcast microphone, that was not like your home, right? That was weird and awkward, and it probably didn't feel right. Mm-hmm. But 400 episodes in now, it's where you are, right? This is my mic, this is my office, this is us, let's go do this, let's go talk to TAS. And that's what happens. It's the same thing in email, it's the same thing in Facebook, it's the same thing anywhere. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Yeah. But you have to start somewhere. And so put out just about anything, right? Have the one weird thing that somebody asked you about your product. Jump on Facebook. Send it out as an email, right? And people ask us all the time, what do we write in emails? What happened this week? Right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
What's the thing that happened? I got asked a weird question about how to, catch more bass at night. And I say, use a flashlight, right? Like, that's the email. That's the email you send to your list. And you're adding value because there's other people in the world that also have that question.
I wanted to add, because some people are like, well, how do I find that if I don't have my audience yet? Here's a simple way, and this is what we advise them to do. We did it live with them. I went on YouTube, and I typed in how to, and then it started to populate. And so as I add more words that are more to my market, it's going to start to tell me the more popular searches. So how to catch, and then it's going to come up, maybe more trout, but I want more bass. So I just go to then add bass, and then it says bass at night. And then I would go, okay, that's what I'm going to create. How to catch more bass whatever during the day, and then it's another one, or how to catch with
a shovel,
with
I don't think you fish at all.
No, we're doing this.
Yeah, how to
This is a challenge.
how to catch more bass, or what lure to buy for catching more bass, right? Like that may be it. So as I'm doing this, I'm letting YouTube tell me what it is, or I might go to, like we did, Google Trends, and I would type in bass fishing, and then it's going to give me suggestions of bass fishing questions or keywords that were searched for, and then I can use that as a content or a seed word that's going to allow me to start thinking what I should create. So you're not guessing, you're actually going out there and allowing that to tell you what the most popular searches are.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it does. So everybody's clear on that. When you start to put in that auto-populate, the reason they do that is they want you to have a better, more relevant experience, and they've watched more people search those terms that are popping up than anything else. That's why it's so relevant. So instead of you doing advanced research and go, I'm going to talk to 30 of my audience and ask them what they really want, they already did tell Google. They already did tell Amazon.
They've done it. They've typed it in the darkness.
It's scary sometimes when it comes up, but don't worry about that. Just skip that one and go on to the next.
The thing that the other side of that, and it's something like so the auto suggest is great, but I don't think it necessarily gets you always to where the content is. And I think it's taking that one step further and going, okay, so here's the 5 auto suggest results. Now click on that one and look at the videos that got the most views out of that.
Nice.
And because it might be the one weird trick, right? It might be my terrible experience catching bass at night, right? And I got flipped into the boat and my leg got eaten by an alligator, right? Like any of those kinds of things. And you have to then take it just that one step further and go, okay, here's what everybody's actually voting with their eyeballs on inside of that. And that's a good, don't rip it off directly, right? We're talking about content hacking, right? Like see what works and model it. We're talking about modeling. Just like in Amazon, when you go to find a product, you want to see what sells. When you go to create content, there is zero reason to 100% reinvent the wheel because there's already people out there searching for stuff. You just want to figure out what your audience is already talking about, the way that they talk, and the things that they're interested in. And so when you do that, you take that one step further and you go, okay, they voted once by typing it in, they voted again by watching it. This is a piece that I need to create.
Okay. So the next question would be like, how does that lead to a sale? Okay, like it never happens. No. So what happens here is a couple different things. Number one, the very first thing, and this is what we suggested for them to go do, and they're going to do it. They're action takers totally. Is to
now they're obligated because we just said it.
Exactly.
You
basically jump on camera and you would say, hey, this is Scott with probassfishing.com, and today I wanted to jump on because the biggest question that I had was this, and then you just kind of go through it. Hey, if you guys want more information, head back over to xyz.com and do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys later. So how does that turn into a sale? Well, if people go over to our site, we probably have a way for them to opt in to get more information, or we might have more content that is going to educate them, but in that content is going to be our products kind of like layered inside of there. So when we're talking about the lure, we may sell the lure. If we're talking about the certain bait, we may have some artificial bait that we might sell. Like there's different things that we're going to be able to talk about and weave it into the content that will naturally become a sale. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is when they do opt in, well then they're going to become part of our email list that we're going to be sending content and we're going to be selling offers. So that's how it all happens. So don't just look at it like you're building a brand to sell a product. You're building a brand to get people educated and get them where you're the best resource out there. Be the best resource in your market, and everything else will take care of itself.
And that the education side of that is where a lot of people miss out, because a lot of people, and Aaron had the same challenge, and we can talk about that in a minute. A lot of people think that to create content, like to go through that big roundabout loop where you're creating a piece of educational content and then you're saying, if you're interested, go click here. Like, yeah, you do lose some people, right? If you were just driving ads in people's faces and saying buy, you'd probably get a better upfront conversion rate, but you're losing out on long-term value. You're losing out on the people further up in the funnel who maybe aren't ready to buy a lure yet, but are just generally interested in bass fishing, and you're in front of them, you're adding education, you're adding value, and they're getting associated with you, so they think of you the next time. It's some of the intangibles, right? Like some of the stuff you can't necessarily measure, but you can measure it by looking at the success of the videos, the success of your email list, and how all that stuff is building. But a lot of people miss out on the education because they think that, so the fishing example, it's Walleye Willie's bass fishing tours, right? Why would Walleye Willie show people the best place to go catch bass? He sells bass fishing tours. Well, one, he already knows it, so he's associated then as an expert.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to have somebody take me, I don't own a boat. I wanted to have somebody take me to all the best bass fishing place, and I know a walleye's not a bass, but whatever. You know, all the best.
No,
fishing,
you don't.
All the best fishing places. All the best fishing places. I'm gonna think of Walleye Willie and his crazy YouTube adventures, right? And yes, some people are just gonna go to Little Johnny's fishing hole and do it on their own, and that's fine. But if they ever need anything else that's associated with Walleye Willie, they're still gonna think of him. And so you're bringing in different people in the funnel, and not just the 3% of people who are ready to buy right now.
What?
And it's a mistake that you and I see in brands all the time.
And the experience, everybody thinks the experience starts when the product arrives, when they get the box and open it up. That's not when their experience started. The amount of people, like, if they love the person that advised it, they already are ready to have an amazing experience with it versus like, oh, I guess I'm kind of, it's a deal right now, I'll grab it. That's a different experience. And so people's experience with your product and your brand and how they feel about it starts with watching the video of you touring them around first. Right. Or showing exactly how your product was made, or why you did it the way you did it, or just this is how I use it in my house, and all those things. That's when they started going, oh, I can see that this is gonna be cool. I can't wait to get this. And now you have a higher likelihood of having a great experience when they do finally purchase.
Yeah. Here's another example of that. Like, let's say you're a real estate agent. For you to basically go on YouTube and talk about 10 things to do while you're in a certain area, right? Yeah. Well, now you're the go-to person that's going to bring that. And if you're looking to move there, you're probably going to, like, maybe look up this realtor. Or 10 things you need to know before you move to a certain area.
Don't move here until you find out.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So, like, there's ways for you to educate. But a lot of people think, like, well, why if... That was the one thing that they had said, like, well, what if I give away, like, how to kind of make my product in a sense? Why would they want to buy it?
Yeah. Well, and I think we can share the exact example we shared with them. And there's a Facebook ad right now that's been going around for several months, which tells me it's been successful because they're just running the heck out of it.
Yeah.
But it's a guy and he's walking around Whole Foods and it's like, 9 superfoods that you should be eating every day, right? And he's walking around Whole Foods and he's like, you need dragon fruit and star fruit and goji berries and, raw cacao nuts and I don't know, just a bunch of random stuff.
And are they real things?
All of those are actual.
Those are real.
Those are the fruits I'm thinking of off the top of my head. And then he basically is like checking out at Whole Foods and he's like, here's what it would cost you to get what you need, and it's like $300, right? You can go get all this stuff.
It's right here.
Right. Yeah. It's at Whole Foods. Everybody that has
it's in my shopping cart.
Foods
I got it all right here.
It's right here. Yeah. Or you can buy our dried version of this for $30 a month, and it's got these 9 and 12 more.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly what education is. And I'm trying to think of another example outside of that, because like the real estate one probably isn't one because they're generally in education anyway. But it might be so a restaurant owner.
Yeah.
Right. It might just be, and we're in Dallas right now, so like the 13 hidden bars in Deep Ellum.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. And why would you do a YouTube video? Well, obviously we're going to be one of the 13, but it's building the neighborhood. It's getting people into Deep Ellum in general, and then they're going to come to my business because they know who I am. They saw my bar, they thought it was cool, and we're going to do that kind of stuff. And so it works in any business, but if you can be transparent about it, it's even better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's better for you.
Right.
And it really is a lot better. It's not just their experience too, but you have a better customer. By the time they're there, they're ready to be your customer. And it's such a rare experience, but that's what building a community is. That's what building a brand really is a bunch of customers. When they think of this thing, they think of you. That's what you want.
Yeah.
And it goes back to you're reaching people at a different point in their decision-making process, right? In the bar owner example, it's people who are coming to Dallas and they're just researching Deep Ellum.
Yeah.
If I was coming to Dallas and I didn't know that there were 13 cool bars in Deep Ellum, I would never go to Deep Ellum.
Exactly.
There's just not a reason for me to go to Deep Ellum,
right.
Unless I know that it's there. And it's the same thing, with the goji berries. I might be really interested in goji berries, but I didn't know that if I combined them with dragon fruit and cacao nuts, that it sped up my metabolism and did all this great stuff for me. And you're pulling in people that would never have been associated with the product.
That's a good point.
Otherwise. And you're not going to get them by saying, this is the best bass lure. You're saying, here's how bass are caught in general, is more of where you're doing that.
Right. Yeah, you're educating them, and then through that process, it's leading them to where you technically could make a sale. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you're being helpful up front. So let's just recap here really quickly. And again, because that's what we were kind of talking. We're kind of like spitting all these different things out, and then they're like, okay, now what? So really, the plan for them was really to create that story video. Okay, and they kind of already created.
They did have a story video,
and it was pretty good. It was well done. They paid money to have it done, so they kind of already had that story video. But our kind of like homework assignment was, basically take that YouTube, your search, and start to look at what are popular searches.
Yeah.
Write a list of all of those. Like, just set time aside to only do that. Don't worry about creating it. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Just go ahead and make a list of all of those top things. Come up with 10 of them that you think that you could knock out like that. Like, you could shoot those. Schedule time and knock out 5 videos, or, if you want, all 10. They don't have to be that long. And then from there, you can upload those to YouTube. Now, on the other side of it, you can also take those 10 and then you could create Facebook Lives and get real interaction from not just people that are showing up live, but people that are going to see the replay.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can go back to the comments. You can see what people are saying, what people liked, and you can see what video got more reach, which one didn't, and you can see what resonated, and then we can go ahead and boost that if we want to with $10 a day or $20 a day. And then that can bring awareness to the brand again. So those were really 2 main things that we kind of like sent them off to do.
Yeah.
On the Amazon side, there's some optimization stuff that we talked about, kind of similar to what we're saying here, is like digging into not just like they're going after like one main keyword. They're forgetting about or not thinking about.
They're going after the product name and not how it's used.
Exactly. So if someone, again, for garlic, if we were talking about like garlic press, you're not going to basically only go after garlic press. Again, we talked about like long handle garlic press, but it could be, even people that are searching for garlic in general.
Italian cooking, garlic recipes.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a way for us to kind of go out there and find other keywords that they could target that would bring the same audience in a sense, but that aren't necessarily searching for the exact keyword.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And it does. And it's, in their case, and I love it.
That's Chris's line, and I love it.
In their case, they have a product that once you understand what it is, and it's one of the biggest challenges in terms of the Amazon ecosystem. It's not a self-explanatory product unless you already know what it is. Right? Yeah. And Joel and I have lovingly referred to Amazon as the lowest common denominator marketing. Yeah. Right? Like, you can't do a lot of the really cool story stuff. You can't do the like...
You're limited.
But the way that they can approach it is from more of the top of the funnel stuff, and that's where all of the content came from. Like, how do people actually use this? Because if you look at competitive products and how it's being used, there's a lot of volume there. And you guys fit right in with price point.
Yeah.
It would appeal to that market. If they click on it, they would probably buy it, especially once they see the cool stuff you've done inside your enhanced brand content with your story and all of that kind of stuff. And so, for a garlic press, you might not position it for Italian cooking. You're going to position it as a garlic press because people already know what that is.
Yeah.
But if people are looking for the usage in general because they don't know, that's where a lot of the volume was for that product. And they went the other route, and I think if they switch it, they might have a lot more success on Amazon.
Yeah.
Which is going to be interesting.
Yeah, before we leave the video step, I want to give that action step again so it's really clear. Start to put your product in and start seeing what that search finishes. How do I use this? And then let it see what it fills, or what's the best this, and then see what's filling in and start grabbing those search terms. Pick even just one right now. Grab your smartphone, turn the video on, and turn on. You just start talking about it as if you're answering that question yourself. So that is, if you haven't done that, if you're not doing videos, just get comfortable with it. That's it.
Well, I don't think it's the medium though. It's consistently creating any content.
Well, no, I'm just giving it. I'm just giving you action step because if you're right on the fence and go, I've been wanting to do the videos, been doing it for a long time. I just wanted to give them that like step.
Yeah.
Just turn. I mean, my kids run around and record freaking everything. Like I can't wait to press the video button. So. But I talk to adults that are building a brand that are doing something serious, and man, there's like
the minute that red light, once that red light goes on, you freeze up.
Yeah, and delete the video if you hate it. Yeah. Just do it. That's the action step. That if anybody's on that fence, go do it.
Well, and I'm gonna backpedal again there and say I don't think it's the medium. It's creating the content, but I don't.
You might see an argument right now.
I don't want that to get lost.
Yeah,
because not everybody is going to do video.
Okay, I'm going to put a caveat. video suggestions only for people that are on the fence about doing video. Anybody
But
else?
I think the same concept applies to anything else. And I'm going to call out Keith Armstrong right now. Because he said, I've gone to write emails 20 different times.
Yeah.
And we have, we build a list of 20,000 and we're not consistent with it because we haven't done it. And I looked at him last night and Melissa said, I know what you're going to say. I said, send them anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And if you don't like it, you don't hit broadcast.
Yeah,
Right?
don't send
but
it.
Get off the fence, write that email, shoot the video,
Cool.
take a picture, write a Facebook post. Whatever content you're creating, however you're doing that for your brand, do something. We're channeling. Who's the guy from the new Indiana Jones, the Just Do It guy?
Yeah.
YouTube. just do anything.
Just do it.
And get
Nike.
get over that hurdle, and you're gonna see some result from it.
Something.
It might be bad. It might be good. It might be.
But how bad could it be?
Right. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen?
You might not get anybody to watch it.
Right, if you send an email and people don't like it, the worst thing that can happen is that a couple people unsubscribe. You're not going to lose all 20,000.
There's no internet police. They don't come and see that we saw your video. I'm sorry, so you have to come and be like,
bad
it's not
quality.
happening.
And you might luck out
Internet quality, yeah, that's happening.
and sell a bunch of stuff, right? Like, some of the stuff that has performed the best for us is the stuff that I'm least happy with.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we had a running joke a few years ago when I would write a piece of content and I would hate it. He would go, let's post that right now.
Yeah, it's good.
Because it would get shared, it would get put, that's the stuff, and I'm like, I'm just not happy with it. I want to tweak it. He's like, no, we're going to publish it. That's how we know that we're done, because you're not happy with, the state that it's in.
right.
It's raw, it's real, let's go. And it would get shared thousands of times, and the stuff that I'm like, I love this thing.
Yeah,
So it gets shared once, and by my mom.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
His mom's very strong supporter of everything Chris does, so
I'm special.
Yeah.
That's what.
And that it's so great to hear that, and people look and go to search and they compare themselves against Dr. Oz. Okay, well, I'm not Dr. Oz. No, you're not.
Right.
But keep watching.
You also
down.
don't have $1 billion budget.
Yeah, if you're
Like,
worried about the quality, don't just watch the top 5. Watch the 30th video. And in most segments, when the time you get past that first page, the quality is declining, and you can definitely do better than at least that.
I think the beauty of this is that we as a society are now expecting less in terms of production quality
Yeah.
and more in terms of content quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And if you shoot on a shaky hand camera, but you tell me something that can change my life, that's
looking
much
for.
that's
Yeah.
much more important than having a 3-point lighting setup, a DSLR, a ring light, and a fancy boom microphone, and
Yep.
filling me with 20 minutes of crap.
Right.
It's just not worth my time.
We've been in audiences where people get turned off by that because it's not real anymore. They
Yeah.
feel like
It's too stiff.
I
Yeah.
can't do that. I can't do anything like that because that's insane. It is compared to where they're at.
And there's no reason to hold yourself to that standard. Now, over time, should you create better production quality stuff? In a lot of cases, yeah.
Yeah.
If you can afford to get a ring light to, get rid of this weird color balance that we have going on in this room. We actually brought a ring light and we didn't bring it into this room.
We just have one giant window over here. It's making
But
you all
it
blown
would
out.
look a little nicer, and it's something that if we had the budget to spend on it, would make some sense because it's going to add a little bit of quality. Nobody's going to get distracted by my weird face. Well, I guess that's still a problem. But
a problem.
if I could afford plastic surgery to look like Scott,
Yeah, right.
then we would have less of an issue with that.
Now
But-
we have a production issue.
Right. And it's one of those things where, again, people get hung up because it's an easy objection. You say, well, I can't make it look like that, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Or people get hung up with they don't have a lot of subscribers or they don't have a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
I would say don't focus on that.
It's
understand that-
unimportant up front.
Understand that will continue to grow.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you shouldn't be focusing on it. You should just be focused on being consistent.
Yeah.
And the audience will come. The people will come. And the thing is, you got to understand, if you got 100 people that view a video, it's 100 people.
Yeah.
100 people. If we put 100 people in this room, it'd be packed.
Yeah.
Packed. So and I said that to my son the other day. I was like, we were in his room. He's got a pretty good sized room, and I'm like, we were talking about subscribers because everybody's hung up on the numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you put 25 people in this room right now, we're jammed.
Yeah.
How would it feel to talk to 25 people in this room right now? I was like, it'd be crazy. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah. Now let's take our whole upstairs, bonus room. Got our pool table and our rec room. What if we put 100 people in here? How would that feel?
Yeah.
It'd be big. It'd be like you're speaking in front of a major audience for you, right?
Yeah.
There's 100 people that just watched your video.
Yeah.
Like, that's major. Like, you got to think about it like that, and a lot of people don't. So,
it's because we see, you know, the dancing cat video that gets 2.9 million views.
I've got to be better than the dancing cat.
It's one of those things, and you know, again, if you're authentic and you're building out things that actually help people, you can get just as good of a result out of 100 views as people who are less authentic get out of 100,000.
Yeah.
Right, and so it's not about the quantity of the content you create. It's not about the quantity of the people that see it or interact with it. It's about the quality of the interaction, and that I think is something that 99.9% of people get wrong.
Yeah, and there's also the realization, if you think about it, all those people that have 100,000 view at one time could barely get 10.
Yeah,
could barely get 100.
And when they posted it, they had 0.
Yeah.
But you know what? Though here's this great point. The same thing goes for Amazon sellers.
Yep. Yeah.
It's the people that are in it for the longer term.
Yeah.
They're not just going to launch, and in 6 months, if they're not successful, they give up.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with your building of a list, or you're building an audience. It's a time thing.
Yeah.
And the longer you stick with it, the more you refine, the more you tweak, over time it will start to build. And it's people just give up too soon.
I'm crazy shocked by the number of people who said, "Oh, it's not working. I only get 1 sale a day." You have a product. You're making money. You're getting 1 sale a day. How many people that are listening right now that haven't started yet would love to have that?
Yeah.
And they're considering themselves a failure and almost wanting to give up.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you just started. You just got in the game.
Yeah.
And so it amazes me how we kind of set up these situations to make ourselves feel bad so that we'll stop. Whatever you have made up in your head, you have to go through the lower numbers to get there. You have to start selling 1 a day before you're selling 100 a day or 10 a day. You have to start there. You know, Scott has numerous brands that he launched, and it was a good day to get 1.
And I think that's something that's interesting because people get hung up in the numbers, and I would rather sell 10 a day consistently than sell 100 and then 0 for 2 weeks, and then 100 and then 0 for 2 weeks. And people go, you know, I want to sell 1,000 units a day. You know, that's great, but I would much rather sell 10 products that sell 100 a day.
Yeah, you're diversifying,
or 100 products that sell 10 a day.
Yeah, you're being consistent,
and it gives you consistency. And again, it's not about the quality of that specific interaction.
Really quickly, we're going to wrap up here real quick. We did talk about the pay-per-click update. We're going to go ahead and we'll just mention that real quick. You just want to recap that really quickly?
Yeah.
Anyone that's watching this just tuning in, I would make you go all the way back to the beginning and watch, but I'm not going to do that. So
because we're here live.
Because we're here live right now, and we can see your question. So, Chris, what is it?
Amazon is monkeying around with the paid search ad placements in a lot of their layouts. They've removed the sidebar banner or the sidebar product search ads, which means there's fewer ad spots on the page. So a lot of people are seeing impressions go down. At this point, as far as we know, it's still just a test. It's not something I would have a heart attack about. But if you see that your impressions have dropped, that your clicks have dropped, that's probably why this week. I know Seller Labs put together a blog post on it. They're going to have some up-to-date information. I know Jeff was talking with some people there today. But just something to keep in mind, if that goes away, it's going to make PPC different. It's not going to, you know, upend everything, but it's just a different way that we're going to have to approach it. We are definitely going to have to shoot for those top 3 spots if that's something they decide to keep. They went to more of the mobile layout for PPC on desktop, and so there's just fewer spots for ads, which means we're going to be bidding more and we need to be more relevant, which is something we've been stressing over the last
100%. All right, cool. We're going to wrap up. Ruben, I just missed it. Ruben, actually, let me, here we go. Ruben, hey guys, I'm sorry not to have made it to the meetup, but I was working on the biz. 21 sales, my first real online arbitrage. Looks like items in 24 hours.
Wow.
So anyone that is considering even just getting started, retail arb is probably a great place to start.
Yeah.
And online arb is what Ruben is talking about. That's where he basically does retail arb, but just online, which does work as well. 1kfasttrack.com. Check that out. Dom is not with us today. He may be watching, but he's not with us today. But Dom takes care of that. And if you guys are interested, go check that out, 1kfasttrack.com. I would also like to drop in the link to our workshop, theamazingseller.com build list. That's for building the list, and that would really go hand in hand with your audience building and your list building to launch more products, but also to amplify your content, things like that. That recommendation that we gave to the brand that we did a hot seat with today that will be airing in the future was really about also building that email list, which they have an email list of mostly customers, but they have not really went after and tried to build that email list yet. They are in the process of doing that, and that was also one of our pieces of homework for them. Anything else you want to wrap up with before we...
I want to do a plug for the meetups in the future.
Yeah.
I had numerous people come to me and say, man, this was worth more to me than events I paid thousands of dollars to be at. You guys were real. You were just normal people that were willing to help and be there. And I thought that was so cool, is that much value we were able to give. And I'd love to see more of you out there. So if there's an unofficial meetup and you can make it, we had someone come here to Dallas from California to just make this event. And we had someone else from out of the country, Ukraine, change their plans to make sure they could drop by Dallas and catch us.
Yeah.
And that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
But more of you guys can be there. It's a great resource. We just try to give as much as we can.
And it gets us jacked up.
Yeah, we were there from 7 o'clock till about 12 or 12:30.
12:15.
Yeah, so if you see that come up, or we try to
Which
do
is
this
why none of us have a voice today.
Yeah, whenever we get to an event or that we're all going to be together, we have one. So make sure you can get there if you see it come up. We'll try to give you a heads up earlier in the future so that you can schedule that, but be there. It's amazing.
And one last thing, we did have people also ask when our next live event was going to be, and we really don't know that. As of right now, we're still kind of trying to figure that stuff out. If you want to be notified of a live event where we actually either workshop or we do hot seats, we do masterminding, stuff like that, go to theamazingseller.com/live. And you'll be put on the registration list for that, or the early notification list for that. Usually it's a limited amount of spots. We generally try to keep them small, but if you want to be just updated on that stuff, that's the list that will be notified of all that stuff. So theamazingseller.com/live. That's it. I think we're going to wrap it up. Battery's still holding pretty strong with my phone. Yours is dead, but we'll probably do another Facebook Live while we're here together. I'd like to talk just a few other topics, I think, even talk a little bit about TAS and where we're moving and what we're doing there, and kind of our, I guess, our plans and mission of what we want to do and kind of what we're going to be doing to help more people in the community. And really just kind of just recap what our meetings are. We've got a lot of little internal meetings that we're talking about, whether it's our building our brand that we're working together on, or even the hot seat session that we did today. So. Yeah.
I would say I want to recap some of the brand building stuff because we like to go off on tangents. But I think you guys, just a piece of homework for everybody that's here. If you don't already have a fully fleshed out brand, and you guys probably don't, because even in the new brand we're still working on some of this stuff. But the three things that I would focus on: one, products. Obviously, product selection is the big key to that. That is going to be 90% of everything, at least in terms of the initial launch and the Amazon success.
Yep.
The second would be platform. Figure out where your audience is. You don't have to be everywhere, but you need to be somewhere where your audience is, whether that's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram. That's why I said I don't just think it's videos, whatever that piece of content is. And then the last one is that persona. Figure out the persona that you're going to have. Are you going to be the face of the brand? Are you just going to be, sitting behind the wall? Are you going to be Barry the fisherman, right? Even though your name's Scott, right? Like whatever that is, you have to have that persona. You have to have it's lovingly referred to as like brand voice, right? The way that you talk, the way that you interact with your customers, and you have to be consistent in those things. So if you haven't figured out any of those three things, figure those out. Start with the products, obviously, because then you can be up and selling and successful on Amazon, and then you can afford to sit around and think about your persona and your platform. If you have your products and they're up and selling, focus on that platform, figure out where your audience is, see how they're talking to each other, and then focus on the persona and figure out if you want to be the front of the brand, if you want to bring in some influencers to do it, and then how you're going to actually talk and interact and give value on that platform.
Yeah, it can get really awful. You do all that planning, all that background work, the perfect brand, and then you get out there and there's nobody out there. And it happens all the time.
Yeah, so go out there and find the audience, and then start looking and planning your content by going through those strategies that we talked about. Perfect. And you guys would be off to the races. So let's wrap this baby up. What do you say?
Do it.
All right, so guys, do us a favor, share this, like it, give us some Facebook love. We want to know that you guys are out there listening and that you're getting value. And just keep us posted. Let us know what's happening. Either drop it in the comments, send us an email, and just let us know your story. And who knows? Maybe if we're in a town near you, we'll jump on and maybe do a hot seat like we did with Aaron, which he was kind of blown away by, and it was kind of fun to do that. We spent almost 2 hours on that. So it was a lot of fun.
It's a half an hour hot seat for 2 hours.
Yeah. I think it was about a 50-minute recording that we did. So with minus that annoying music that was being played. But,
it's going to be a good episode.
It is. It's going to be a great one.
There's a background soundtrack. It's a lot of new areas for TAS.
It's royalty free though. All right, guys, that's it. That's going to wrap it up. Take care, and as always, take action. We'll see you guys.